Hi everyone, in today's class we're going to start working on your project number 1 and we're going to look at basic navigation in Adobe Illustrator, how you can create a new file, how you can save a file, how you can use basic tools, how you can create objects using shape tools, how you can move, delete, select, rotate, and recolor the objects. So first of all, everyone should have their Adobe Illustrator open on their screen so that you can start working. I'm going to be using version 2018, but you can use a newer or an older version as well. I have put an announcement on your Blackboard which gives you detailed instructions on how to download Adobe Illustrator for Mac users and for PC users because it's different. So please make sure that you have the program ready to go. So first, we're going to create a new file. So when you go to File, New, you will see a dialog box with many different options. So for us, we're going to click on the tab that says Print. And this is because our file should be printable, so we should have resolution that's good enough for printing. So I'm going to click on Print. Second, you're going to see there are a bunch of presets for you. So there's a legal paper size, there's a tabloid paper size, there's a letter size. So for me, I'm going to click on the letter size because for the first assignment, I just need a letter size paper. So click on the letter size. Next, I'm going to go over to the right side, and from the drop-down menu I'm going to change my units to inches. When you do that, you're going to see that you've got 8.5 inches by 11 inches, so that is the correct size for your file. Next, you can see that you can choose landscape or portrait orientation. I'm going to choose the portrait orientation, so I'm going to click on the portrait icon. Next, you have to tell the computer how many artboards you want. So for this assignment, I'm going to just enter 1, which is also the default. But if you wanted to have more than one artboard, you could enter number 5, 10, 20, or whatever number of empty blank pages you would like to have. So each artboard is basically like a blank page that you can draw on. So in my case, I'm just going to say 1 artboard, and that's enough for me right now. Next, I'm just going to click on the Advanced Options button so that I can see the resolution. So raster effects, or the resolution, is 300 pixels per inch and it's set to high. So this is good because I would like to print my file so I can put it in my portfolio. So this is already set because I clicked on the Print tab at the beginning of file creation in this case. But I still recommend that you always go to Advanced Options anyway, so you can just make sure that your resolution is high, and it says high 300 pixels per inch. Afterwards, we're going to create a new file, so now you just have to click on the Create button. So this is your default screen. If you see anything different, you should go to the upper right corner and click on the drop-down menu and select Essentials Classic. So if you select Essential Classic, you should see what I am seeing. So in the middle, you are looking at your artboard. So this is the white area that you can draw on, and this area is the printable area, meaning if you draw something in the gray area, it'll still get saved as a part of your Adobe Illustrator file, but it's not going to get printed. So whatever is included in the white area will get printed. Okay, so you can practice doodle on the side in the gray area, but you have to move it on top of the white area in order to make sure that it's going to get printed. Next, you're going to see the menu bar on top. So the menu bar contains different menus. So for example, File has Save, Save As, Export, Edit has Copy, Paste, and many others. So it's important to note that you can also see all of the shortcuts. So for example, Control S or Command S is to save your file. So try to memorize these shortcuts because it's going to save you time. Next, you can see the options bar. So the options bar will change depending on what tool you're using, but this is called the option bar. Next, you're going to see your toolbar. So the toolbar has a little X on top so you can close it. And if you click and drag in the dark gray area on top, you will then be able to move it around. Each tool has a name which gets displayed at the bottom of the screen. So if I click on this, you can see at the bottom of the screen it says type. If I click on this, then you can see at the bottom of the screen it says direct selection. So if you can't remember the name of the tools, you click on it and then you can see their name at the bottom. Also, sometimes when you hover with the mouse on top, without clicking, the computer gives you the name of the tool as well. If you don't see it, then just click on a tool and you can see the name of the tool at the bottom of the screen. You will also notice that some of these tools have a little triangle at the bottom right hand corner. So the tools that have that little triangle at the bottom contain subtools. So to display the extra tools that are available, you have to click at the bottom right hand corner tiny triangle and keep your mouse pressed. So for example, I'm going to go to the pen tool. I'm going to click at the corner at the bottom. I will keep my mouse pressed down and then I will drag to the edge of the table and let go. Once you let go of your mouse, the little menu, the menu will separate. We call this tear off menu. So let's tear off another menu. Let's have a look at the text tool. So if I click at the tiny triangle and I keep my mouse pressed, I can then still keep my mouse pressed and drag over to the edge. The bar will highlight, and once I let go, the menu will tear off. So practice doing this. Let's do one more just to practice. So for example, I'm going to go to rotate tool. So if I click at the bottom on the tiny triangle, I can then keep my mouse pressed, drag over to the edge, the bar will highlight, and then I let go. Once I let go, the submenus will show up. So I recommend that you keep these menus torn off and expanded as you draw so that you can go back and use those tools easily. If you close them, you could easily get confused because if I say, for example, use anchor point tool, then that's the tool that's going to show on my toolbar, and then I could get confused because I can no longer see the pen tool. So whatever tool you have used last will be the one that's showing up in your toolbar. So in order to not get confused, I recommend that you simply tear off the menus that you're going to be using. It's going to be faster and less confusing for you. So that's it for just basic workspace. So next, we're going to look at zooming in and zooming out. So to zoom in, you can use the zoom tool. So if you press Option or Alt key and you click, you're going to zoom out. If you don't press any keys and you just click, then you are going to zoom in. Personally, I rarely use the zoom tool. Instead, I use Command minus to zoom out or Command plus to zoom in. If you're a PC user, it's Control minus and Control plus. If you are zoomed out quite a bit, then you can hit Control 0 or Command 0 to display your full artboard on the screen. So again, if you're zoomed in like crazy or zoomed out like crazy, then you just have to hit Control 0 and then you will zoom in to the full artboard. The other thing that's really good to know is the hand tool. So the hand tool will allow you to move around your artboard. So if you're really zoomed in, you can use the hand tool to move it around. The other great thing is that if you are using any of these tools, doesn't matter which one, then you can switch to the hand tool immediately just by pressing the space bar. So when I press the space bar, it'll temporarily switch to the hand tool as long as I'm pressing the space bar. So if you're using the text tool or if you're using the pen tool or whatever, if you press space bar, then the hand tool is going to activate. When you release the space bar, you are going to go back to whatever tool you have been using. So that's a really good tip there for navigating your files. So Command minus, Command plus, Control 0, and then also you can again use the zoom tool to zoom in. You just click, or you can do Alt or Option and then click to zoom out with the zoom tool. So that's how you're going to navigate around your workspace. There's one more way of using the zoom tool, and this is to basically click and drag, and then that also zooms you in to a specific area. So for example, if I had a few squares drawn, you don't have to do this, I'm just showing you as an example, then what I could do is I can basically click and drag to zoom in with the zoom tool, or I can just click to zoom in into the area that I wish to look at. Okay, so that's how you're going to navigate using the zoom tool, using the hand tool, and then also using Control minus, Control plus, and Control 0. Next, we're going to have a look at show grid function. So we're going to go to View, and then you're going to scroll down until you see Show Grid. So View, Show Grid is going to allow you to see the grid. So when you draw, you will be able to use this 1 by 1 inch grid to help you draw. If you don't want to see it, you can then go to View and select Hide Grid. So when you start working on assignment 1, I would recommend that you use Show Grid because it might help you out in terms of spacing the objects on your artboard. Finally, we are going to now save this file. So you're going to go to File, Save As, and then we're going to call this first your family name, so Dobrik, and then underscore, and then Simple Shapes. So this will be saved with your family name, Simple Shapes, and then you can save it onto your desktop. So from the drop-down menu, you can choose desktop, USB, wherever you want, and then you're going to save it in that location. So for me, I want to save it on my desktop, and then I'm going to click on Save. The format, it's already saying Adobe Illustrator or AI format, so I don't want to change it. I want to leave it as an Illustrator file. Then I'm going to click on Save. Here it's asking me for the version, so I'm going to use Illustrator CC version, and I'm going to click OK. And now my file is saved. So now I'm going to minimize my screen just to double check where my file is. So my file is saved on the desktop, and you can see it here. It says Dobrik Simple Shapes AI. So you should double check on your USB or your desktop to make sure your file is there. You can see the icon and the extension will say AI, meaning you successfully saved it as an Illustrator file. So as you work on your computer, you can always go to File, Save, or you can use Command S or Control S. So every time you use Control S, the file will get saved. So Control S or Command S is used to save your file. Depending on what version of Illustrator you have, the drop-down menu when you go to Save As is going to look different in terms of what format you're saving it as. So for example, if I go to File, Save As, I can call this Test 1, select Save it on the desktop. The format is Adobe Illustrator, so that's fine, I don't have to change it. And then I click on Save. And then here you're going to see whatever your version is that you're using. So in my case, it's going to save it as Illustrator 2020 because that is the version I'm using, and that's what comes up as your default. So always just save it as whatever your default is. If you're using CS6, let's say the older version, then you're going to have that on top as your default. So do not save it as any of these older formats. Always save it as whatever comes up as your default, whatever comes up pre-selected for you, whatever you can see on top. So in my case, it's Illustrator 2020, so I'm just going to leave it there because that's the version I'm using, and then I'm going to say OK. In the previous example I gave you in this video, I was saving it as CC because I was using an older version. But in this example, I'm using the newest version. So be mindful of what version you're using. And it's fairly simple. You just have to save it whatever the default shows you on top because that is the current version that you are using. And that's it. Thank you.